Hey you guys, this is Jess with Sourceful Journey, back with another video. So I wanted to do a quick video here to focus on the notion that this is not a competition. Nobody else has your assignment. So what do I mean by that? Without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and just jump right in. This is not a competition. Nobody else has your assignment. I cannot wait for the day when people can begin to realize that and truly focus on the notion of staying in one's lane and focusing on oneself, not trying to make everything a competition, especially amongst those who are doing nothing but that, focusing on themselves and staying in their own lane. It tickles me when you start to see people's true colors, when you start to shift gears in terms of whether you want to continue dealing with them or not. Maybe you in some way or another have picked up on something in terms of their energy that led you to realize, like, this person is a troublemaker. Maybe I should steer away from them. Because again, after all, you are the company that you keep, right? Think about that. So they will start to notice that shift and then start to feel a certain way, and they feel baffled, like, well, what could have happened? What did I do? Did I say something wrong? This is where people need to go back to the drawing board and try to figure it out. Could it truly be something within self? Could it be something with me that maybe made this person kind of take a step back from wanting to deal with me? I think by doing so, this can allow individuals to be able to address any wounds that they may have, that they may not be aware of. I'll give you an example. There was this one young lady, and I knew from the beginning. I knew just by seeing how she moved and interacted with other people. I'm like, this one is a bit of a troublemaker. I'm not going to really deal with her too much. More of a high and by, right? And I remember, she was trying to build such a bond with me, but in such a negative way. Her whole perspective, her whole dialogue when it came to speaking on others and such was just negative, negative, negative. And I kept thinking to myself, why is she so focused on what Jane Doe is doing rather than focusing on self? And that to me is a red flag, because you're not only putting that energy into someone else, that can then get back to the individual that you're having these conversations about them. And if you are in the mix or next to that person, chances are they'll try to loop you into it too. I didn't want to have any dealings with that. So what did I do? I chose to completely cut ties. So even down to the high and by, there was no more exchange of that. People fail to realize just simply having a conversation one-on-one with various individuals, you're exchanging energy even with the verbal side of things. And that's where it can kind of rub off on others. And in some way or another, that can cause them to do the same thing that you are currently doing. So in order to truly keep one's energy clear of the nonsense, a lot of times you have to sever those ties as quickly as possible, whether the other individual likes it or not. Because at the end of the day, and I said this in a lot of my past videos, when you came to this earth in this lifetime, did you know any of these people at all? You know the answer. That's a huge hell no. I say all that to say, focus on you, but at the same time, keep a level head when it comes to the type of individuals you keep around you or you choose to associate with. And so the whole thing about the competition factor, let's talk about it. If people can start to have the thought process and truly understanding that we all came here separately for a reason, right? I think we all should know that by now. Just know that we were all given a designated task to take on. We were all given something we need to focus on in regards to self, to better self in this lifetime. The moment we can start to accept that, I think this world could truly be a better place in its own way. It's sad. A lot of people say, oh, there's nothing wrong with friendly competition. I think the whole idea of friendly competition, notice the air quotes I did there, I think that's more of it's a facade. It's not a real thing. I think anything dealing with competition where you're talking about the level of aggression that goes into whatever act you're looking to take on at the time, that can lead to something being pretty damaging, whether it's maybe a rift as far as energy between two individuals or more, or it could just lead to bad outcomes taking form, like maybe someone getting hurt in the process, or and God forbid that. But you can see where I'm going with this, right? The whole notion of friendly competition, there is no such thing as friendly competition. If anything, I feel like it can lead to something pretty damaging. Really, it could be something that could end up being detrimental when it's all said and done. So, just make it a key focus within self each day that anything and everything that you do going forward, there is no competition. Because after all, God has made each and every single one of us in a unique way. And He had placed us here for a reason, right? We encounter certain things through our day to day for a reason. Each spirit, because we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? Each spirit has a certain task and certain things we need to take head on to further us along in our journey. We need to start accepting that for what it is. And the moment you do that, the less stressed out one will be. You probably wouldn't even have much anxiety for the matter, because you hear quite often people talk about like, oh, I have such bad anxiety when it comes to being in this situation or that situation. A lot of times it's because of the pressure, or I would say the feeling as if you are in competition, right? Think of it in the sense of like someone who's in the sales industry. For those of us who know, you know where I'm going with this one. So when we talk about the sales industry, a lot of us who knows when it comes down to those metrics, as far as how many applications or contracts you get to come through, and how many actually stick, how many fall off, what was the percentage that was lost for the month or for the quarter, right? We look at all that numbers the entire time. So let's take that as an example, right? And let's face it, sometimes even the managers, who are pretty karmic in their own way, little do they realize, they too have a tendency to try to want to feed the machine when it comes to competition. It's just an index card, you guys, in case you're wondering. But they want to feed the machine when it comes to competition, right? Because they think, oh, it's friendly competition. They know exactly what they're doing. I say all that to say, even when in those type of scenarios, learn to tune that out. Because the moment you do, your focus will be a lot stronger. You'll feel less stressed out, and you would truly get the job done. I can think back to the times when I was in that type of industry. They would normally say something like, oh, my rep or my team lead could beat your team lead or rep any day. We'll have this number by the end of the month before your team even thinks about making it to this number. Blah, blah, blah. Again, really using that whole facade, that notion of it's friendly competition, when in all actuality it's just, it's pretty aggressive in its own way. I know during the times when I've encountered this, and granted, it sounds all great when you're like, wow, my manager really believes in the work that I can do. But they're even willing to brag and boast about it amongst their peers, their group of managers that they work alongside with. You're like, oh, that's pretty phenomenal. Not realizing that it was really putting unnecessary pressure on you. It wasn't really motivating you to push harder. If anything, it was just making you more sick, because now they're trying to pull you into some nonsense that you didn't even ask for. So for me personally, when I came across those scenarios, I knew that they were having this type of dialogue behind my back because of some other salesperson on another team who was a strong player also was dealing with the same pressure. What I did, and what allowed me to excel at such a rate that I did during my time in the sales industry, was that I had to tune it out. So granted, I had my manager up there rooting me on with the friendly competition behind the scenes, but I said, you know what, out of sight, out of mind. So in doing so, that allowed me to really focus on what I had in front of me without that pressure being laid on me so heavily mentally. And I was able to excel and actually overachieve my expectation for the month or months that I had to look at various markers, various goals, and did so in such a way without having to deal with that pressure that they were putting on me just from friendly competition. So in all actuality, Just know when it comes to this thing called life, there is no one on the face of this earth who should even be in competition with you, because after all, you are running this race alone. Everyone's task, everyone's educational plan is different from the other. The moment we can start to think like that on an individual basis, the better off we will be, the less stressed you'll be. A lot of times, even when it comes down to some of the things that people take, medically speaking, as far as medicines for anxiety, things like that, just imagine if you applied this approach. If you did that, could you possibly even need that medication for your anxiety after all? Would there even be a need for it? Kind of going back to what I mentioned in a previous video. Think of the times of old where people dealt with certain scenarios that were a bit shaky, right? How did they go about accomplishing those feats, those goals, right? In such a way where there was no medicinal solutions involved. Think about that. It just goes to show you that without going off on a tangent, and I actually talked about this in one of my much older videos, my thoughts about why there's such a heavy push for particular medications, if you will. You won't go into it in this video, but if you're interested, just scroll down. You'll see a video where I talk about it. And it's one of those things that just make you say, when you think about that entire side of the spectrum when it comes to big pharma, without saying too much. But yeah, that's all for today's quick video. I would say overall, just know that this race that we are running is just you and God, source alone. And then of course the spiritual team being our angel team as well. But as far as it being viewed as a competition, there is no competition, because at the end of the day, God has placed us on this earth, each and every single one of us, for a reason. And each and every single one of us have a different task we have to take on, or various tasks depending on what you have in front of you. You know, the moment we can accept that for what it is and do understand that the only one that we should be competing with is with self. The old self, to be more specific, the better off you would be. And also, for those who feel so compelled and feel the need to want to compete against you, the ones that you can see plain as day that, okay, you just don't like me because you see me as a threat. Send them off with love and light. But at the same time, know that, honey, what they battling with on the inside has nothing to do with you. That's between them and God. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I do see a lot of you guys that are starting to trickle in. I want to definitely welcome you to the family. Just know that I see you and I appreciate you. The consultations are still open. We are at the beginning of a new week. As I can see right now, surprisingly enough, for Friday, there are 2 more spots available. So if it is something that is of interest to you, definitely take advantage of it, because I'm telling you now, and a lot of you guys have heard me say this, Fridays and Saturdays are booked quickly. And I think it has a lot to do with because it's more so towards the end of most people's work week, which is why they get booked up extremely fast. So I'm giving you a heads up now, and this is towards the beginning of a new week, that there are 2 more spots available for Fridays. I've checked this morning, so definitely take advantage if it is something that is of interest to you. For those of you who are not aware, I am actually also in the space when it comes to keynote speaking as well as motivational speaking. If your organization is getting ready to set up an event that's getting ready to take place and you would like for me to come and partake in that experience with you all, have someone from the head of your organization to reach out to me, where we can then go over the appropriate details and take the next steps accordingly. And other than that, that is all for this video, and I definitely see you guys off with love and light. I'll see you in the next video. Be blessed, you guys.